Hello and welcome to the Ellen Made Book Club. Today I want to check in on my reading goals for the year and also some of the reading challenges that I'm doing. I did update videos for the first quarter of the year, so I will have those linked in the description as well, and I will just sort of follow on from there in terms of the reading challenges that I am doing and just sort of like update with the new books that I have added since then. And for the first quarter I did one video with like most of my reading challenges, and then I did a separate video with the diversity book bingo. So I think that's what I'm going to do now for the second quarter as well. I still have a bunch of different reading challenges to update you on, and I'm also going to include my Our Fantasy bingo board in this video, as well as check in on my reading goals for the year. So starting off with my reading goals and the number of books I have read so far. This is not something that I place a lot of importance on, but it's just like a good gauge to see, you know, if I read more now or less or whatever. So the goal I had set was to read 52 books in the year, and I'm definitely making a very good progress on that. So far, when I am filming this, I have read 42 books this year, so that's the equivalent of 81% toward my goal, and I am 15 books ahead of schedule. I also had set some intentions, some of which I think I'm doing pretty well on and others maybe not so much. My first intention was to read more diversely but also keep it fun, and I think I'm doing pretty good on that. This is mostly reflected in my diversity book bingo. That's helping me to stay on track with reading diversely, and I think I have also included some like more lighthearted reads and some, you know, fantasy books and just things that I can read for fun. Not everything has to be so like serious. Yeah, that's definitely something that I try to keep in mind when choosing books for that challenge. My second intention was to mood read more, and again, I kind of, but not really. I definitely do think that I need to mood read more still. I still pick books based on reading challenges and things, but like I enjoy that. So it's not like it's putting pressure on myself. Another intention was to have no stress, and I don't feel like I'm stressed out. Like I don't feel stress about the reading challenges that I'm doing or the books that I'm picking. Maybe one book is stressing me out. Another intention I had was to read more books at once, and that sort of goes up and down for me. I think sometimes I can enjoy different books at once, and other times I need to just like focus on one book, or I feel like I enjoy the book more if I focus on it and not, you know, mix things up too much. It depends, and I'm fine with that. Another intention was to use my library, which I am. I always have a little stack of books here on my shelf with library books, and I'm not maybe the best at reading them. I take them out and then I have them here for a couple months, look at them, and like sometimes I read them. I'll put up a number on the screen of how many books I have read from the library so far this year. I don't know that number in my head, but it would be interesting to know. Another intention was to explore my taste, like my reading taste in books, and I think I'm doing decent on that as well. I just filmed my June wrap-up video, and I was talking about how I was reading a romantic duology. That's not something that I typically go for, so that's good. I'm also finding myself like drawn to different genres based on my mood, and I think that's always been the case, but I feel like I'm, you know, in a headspace where I'm more open to trying new things. I saw a great video about rereading by Nicky at my Emezi bookshelf, and I think that was like someone else started the discussion, but she did a great video about that topic. And we were sort of talking in the comments about how, you know, the comfort of rereading and the safety of it, and I think that plays a part in like my reading choices a lot as well. Like if I feel better mentally, like I have space and like mental capacity to explore things and like take a little bit more risk, then I'm happy to do that. And then other times, if I'm feeling low or if I'm feeling tired or overwhelmed in general in life, then that's not the best time to go exploring and being adventurous in my reading. Then I'm gonna be more likely to choose books that are more within my comfort zone. And I think that's okay. I think that's good. I think it's a good thing to be aware of and like know yourself. Like based on how I'm doing right now, I need a safe book or I need to take some more risk. I'm okay with where I'm at present. Another intention was to enjoy and have fun, and I definitely think that I am doing that this year. I have had a lot of fun with reading challenges and trying new reading challenges, and I participated in a competitive readathon in May, which was really fun. Like, that was a challenge for me, but it was also fun and like another way to explore my reading and how I react to a reading competition. All of that is, you know, a way to explore and like get to know myself as a reader. And so yeah, I think that's enjoyable and fun. And then another intention was mindful spending. That's probably the one that I have failed the hardest at this year. I have bought a lot of books and like more books than I have ever bought before, but I'm also not really mad at that. There was like 10 years or something where I didn't buy a lot of books. Maybe I bought like 5 books in total during that time, you know, life and things. And then I sort of found my way back to reading with booktube. I started a booktube channel, and like that made me read a lot more, because it's, you know, part of a community and I have people to talk about books with, and I was discovering so many new books. And like the more you read, the more you want to read, because when you're not thinking about books, you don't think about books, but then when you see the books and you see everybody else talk about new books, and there's just so much to discover and experience. And so it's like the more you get into it, the more you want to read. In the past like 2 years since I've had this channel, I've thrifted a lot of books and, you know, bought books secondhand. I've bought a few books here and there, but I haven't like ordered huge amounts of books. And I think I could have done that like on day one. I could have been like, oh, this is my hobby now, and so I'm gonna spend lots of money on it immediately. And I didn't. I thrifted a lot of books and tried to hold back and not buy too many. And this year I think I sort of felt like I've deserved it now. Like, I have kept this up for over 2 years. I have been reading consistently and I have been doing this channel consistently. And so if I want to spend some money on books now, like that's fine. Like, I've proved to myself that this is not just a little phase or like something that I will forget about in a month or two. And I really enjoy having lots of options on my shelves, and it's just part of how I function. Like, if I have one banana, let's say, in the house, I won't eat that banana, because when I've eaten that banana, I won't have any bananas left. And so I much prefer to have, you know, 5 bananas, and then I'll eat 1 banana, because then I know I won't be out of bananas. So I feel like this sounds so stupid, but it's like the same for me with books. Like, I don't want to pick the book that I want to read, because then I'm gonna be out of that book. And so I need to have several books of like similar types, I think, to be brave enough to pick one of them up, because then I won't be out of that book to read, even though they're different books. But like, if I want to read a thriller and I only have 1 thriller on my shelves, that's like a precious thing. That's like, I can't spend that thriller right now. I have to save it for when I really, really, really need a thriller. And it's just how my brain works. And so I enjoy having plenty of options, and I still want to be mindful with my spending and like not make impulse purchases, but I don't mind the amount of books that I have bought this year still, because I think that they're all books that really speak to me and like my reading interests. They're all books that I really want to read. They're not books that I've bought because of some trend. They're books that speak to me in some way and that I have been recommended or, you know, see myself reading. And so that's a good investment, I think. And I see it as an investment in my anticipation, and anticipation is a very good thing. Anticipation is joy and rest and just a good feeling, and I want to have a good feeling every day. And I love coming in here and sitting in my reading chair and just looking at all of the books and all of the pretty spines and all of the colors, and just like thinking about all of the experiences that I have ahead of me and the books that I have read and enjoyed, and like I like looking at them, and so I'm happy with my choice, okay? I also have a list of authors and books that I wanted to read this year, and on this list I'm not doing great. The first one I have read, and that was James by Percival Everett. I also wanted to try books by Kingfisher, Akwaeke Emezi, Jennifer Saint, and S.A. Cosby. And at least I have these books on my shelves now. I have Little Rot by Akwaeke Emezi, and I also have Atalanta by Jennifer Saint. So these are ready to go to fulfill my goals. I also, oh my goodness, I also have A House with Good Bones by Kingfisher on my shelves, and that is in my bag because that's on my July TBR. I've been wanting to get Razorblade Tears, but it's really expensive for some reason, and so I think I'm just gonna get that from the library. And then I also had Frankenstein and Rebecca as two books that I wanted to read this year, and I haven't read either of those. I have gotten a copy of Rebecca, which has the same cover art as The Most by Jessica Anthony. For some reason, I think this artwork is gorgeous, so I don't really mind it, and I think it's kind of funny that these two are the same. I have started Rebecca on audiobook, but I couldn't really follow, or like I wasn't hooked by the start of it, so I think having a physical copy will help, and I will probably do an immersion read of this with audio and physical text. And then my other big goal was to complete reading challenges, and I haven't completed any of them yet, but I am making pretty good progress, so let's get into that. Let's start with the Buzzword title challenge. I was doing pretty good on this, I think, in the first quarter, and so this quarter I only have 2 titles to add. The first one is Making History by KJ Parker, which is a sci-fi novella. There's a ruler of some kind who tasks his people with creating a fake ancient city for reasons, and this fulfills the prompt for May, which was to read a book with the word make in the title or some variation of it. And then I also read The Most by Jessica Anthony, also a very short little book about a woman who decides to get into the pool and stay there, and this fits the prompt for December, which was to read a book with a superlative in the title, and The Most is the most superlative of them all. Moving on to the Buzzword cover challenge, also by Kayla at Books and Lala. I have read 2 books for that as well, I think. The first one is She's a Lamb by Meredith Hamrock, which I counted for the internal body part prompt for January, and the internal body part is the tongue that is visible in this woman's face. I have other options with like more internal organs like a heart or a skull or something, but like I've read this one and I think a tongue counts, so I'm counting it. I'm also counting Hecate by Nicky, which is a young adult mythology retelling written in verse, which I really enjoyed, and I'm counting that for the fire and smoke prompt for September because they're all holding torches. I'm currently reading the summer book by Tove Jansson, which I'm gonna be counting for reflection, and I also decided to get a Broken People's playlist by Chimeka Garrix, which is a short story collection set in Nigeria as well, I think, and this has like a Walkman on the cover, which would work for the December prompt of music. I also have, again, A House with Good Bones by Kingfisher on my July TBR, so hopefully I can get to that and count it for the metallic element prompt. So even though I haven't made as much progress on these 2 challenges this quarter as I did the first quarter, I'm still ahead of schedule for the year, and yeah, I'm doing pretty good on these. So let's move on to the Read Good challenge by Ben at Ben Reads Good. For this one I have only added 1 book, and I'm currently reading another. The book that I have added is On Earth as It Is Beneath by Ana Paula Maya, which I counted for Booker shortlisted author, which is the prompt for September. And then I am currently reading Travel Light by Naomi Mitchison, which I'm going to be counting for published before 2000, which is the prompt for January, February, March, May. So all in all, I have 5 prompts left to fulfill, which is pretty much on track for the year. The Savidge Prompts by Simon at Savidge Reads and Louise at Louise Savidge Muses I have made a lot of progress on and am almost done with. I think I have read 5 books since my last check-in. The first one is, again, On Earth as It Is Beneath by Ana Paula Maya, which I counted for the prompt savage. That story is just savage. It's very brutal and suspenseful, and yeah, it's savage. For the age prompt, I counted Spiraling by Cal Speet, which is a contemporary novel set in London, and it's just all about being in your 20s. And it was a very sort of nostalgic read for me about like being in your 20s and, you know, planning for the weekend and going out with your friends and all of that. That sort of spoke to me about the age of being in your 20s. So that's why I counted it for that. For Spark, I counted Hecate again by Nicky. They're holding the torches, and that's also a relevant plot point. It also sort of sparked my interest in reading books written in verse, because that was a really interesting experience and I would like to try some more. For the prompt Wild, I'm counting Wild Boar by Hanna Lutz, which is a Swedish author. It's a very short book and not a lot happens, but yeah, the word wild is in the title, so I'm counting that. And then for Time, I'm counting Yesteryear by Caro Claire Burke. The word yesteryear in the title is very connected to time. There's also a sort of time travel aspect to the story. And it's about our current times with social media and a tradwife influencer who is living as they did in the olden days. And so there are a lot of connections to time in this book, and so that's why I'm counting it for that. So for this, I only have 2 prompts left to fulfill. The challenge prompt is going to be Hours by Philip A. Williams. I'm hoping to read that this summer. And then for the rap prompt, I have a couple of options picked out that I'm excited to get to, but I'm not in any rush, and I'm not going to do that until I have read Hours. Let's move on to the Acorn Bingo by Robbie at Book Squirrel. He is taking a little bit of a break from his channel right now, but I am still enjoying playing his bingo, and I hope that he finds his way back to the channel at some point. But let's do an update on my bingo board. I'm gonna do it row by row this time because that's just easier for me. For reality bending, I put There Is No Anti-Memetics Division by Quantum. For fictional terms, I put The Hunger Games by Suzanne Collins, and the word I have put here is Avox, and I think that referred to a character that didn't have a voice anymore, which was horrifying, but yeah, that's hopefully a fictional term. For vibrant cover, I counted The Most by Jessica Anthony. For DNF, I counted You Killed Me First by John Mars, because I DNF'd that book. For fear factor, I counted On Earth as It Is Beneath by Ana Paula Maya. That was definitely a heart-pounding read. And then for learn a new word, I put She's a Lamb by Meredith Hamrock. There is a wharf, which is a funny word to me. I didn't know what that was, and so I looked it up, and it's a kai in Swedish, like the docks, kind of. Wharf. I don't know. And then for a queer book, I put Spiraling by Cal Speet, because that is all about a young gay man who is dating. I only have 3 prompts left on this whole bingo board, which makes me very happy. I have group cast, out of comfort zone, and a random pick, and I'm looking forward to all of those. And then finally, let's take a look at my Our Fantasy bingo board. So for this, I have read and finished a couple of books, and I have also changed a couple of my choices for my bingo board. So for the first square, the trans or non-binary protagonist, I had originally picked out Cemetery Boys by Aidan Thomas, and I tried that, but I DNF'd it. It wasn't my thing. So for now, I have put They Bloom at Night by Trang Tan Tran. I need to look up how to say that correctly because I struggle every time. I think this has a trans main character. I'm not sure if that's a spoiler or not. It doesn't say, but it sort of hints at it in the blurb if you know that that's what it's referring to. But I think I saw it saved on that prompt by someone else, and I have been intrigued to read this, so I decided to pick up a copy, and that's what I'm putting on this square. The next square I have completed, and that is to judge a book by its title, and for that I'm counting There Is No Anti-Memetics Division by Quantum. That is a very intriguing title, and I did sort of know the premise before going into it, so it doesn't qualify for hard mode, but it's not really a concept that you can grasp anyway. So I don't know, I don't really care about hard mode, but like that's the book that I'm counting for that. The next prompt that I have completed is The Afterlife, and I think when I first saw this prompt or heard about it, I thought that it was going to be more challenging, but like since then I just keep finding books that I want to read that are set sort of in the afterlife or has something to do with the afterlife, and I'm just like seeing that as a concept more. Yeah, there are lots of options for this prompt, but I went with A Short Stay in Hell by Stephen L. Peck. The main character dies and goes to hell. The next prompt I completed is the game or competition prompt, for which I read The Hunger Games by Suzanne Collins, which I feel like that prompt is made for. And then I have read a couple of short stories in White Cat Black Dog. I need to read the third and final one in that book, and then I need to read 2 other short stories before I can cross this prompt off completely. But like I'm making progress. For the older main character, I counted Making History by KJ Parker. The main character in that story is, I think it says he is 52, so it's like just above the 50-year-old mark. I think the book that I'm currently reading would also fit. That has several different timelines and main characters, but one of them is an older woman, and I would think she's above 50. That book is Homebound by Portia Elan, which I'm going to count for published in 2026. I've also completed both of the duology prompts, which I am very happy about because that sort of stressed me out. But I just sort of spontaneously started The Rose Bargain by Sasha Payton Smith, and then I went on to read The Thorn Queen. And so now I've just completed both of those prompts, and I am very happy about that. And then the final prompt that I have completed is the non-human main character, and for that I counted Hecate by Nikita Gill, because the main character is a godling. And I think those are all of the prompts that I have completed and or switched books on. I might still make changes and count whatever I read for whatever it fits. Those are all of my updates for the second quarter, except for the diversity book bingo, which I will talk about in a separate video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you're having a fantastic day, and I will see you in the next one.